Looks like we're live. Let me give it a second to catch up. Or just sit here and do nothing. Okay, come on. Catch up, YouTube. Nothing's happening yet. Oh, something's happening. Make sure we've got audio.
Like we're live.
Okay, there we go. Let me mute me because I don't want to listen to me. Buttons, stop. Do what you're supposed to do. There we go. Okay. So tonight, working in acrylics. This is a painting. It's one of those that I have in my head. I kind of have reference photos, but mostly not. And by reference photos, I mean, it's a picture of underwater, kind of the colors I want. That's the extent of my reference photos. This one is going to be freshwater, which you don't see me do too often. And no matter what it is that you're painting, whether it be a landscape or an underwater scene or anything else, the things that I'm going to talk about with blending acrylics should apply for anything really. So I'm working in a, actually let's hit record. I'm working on a Frederick's Blue Label Ultra Smooth Canvas, which are one of my favorite canvases, and I am, just for transparency, sponsored by Frederick's. They did provide me with this canvas. They were already the only canvases I used, so no difference there for me. But this is very smooth, and one of the things that you want to watch is that when you're choosing your canvas, whatever brand you go with, you do want to make sure if you're painting this style, try to find something that's very smooth. I keep kicking my easel, I should stop that. If you get a canvas that's really rough, very bumpy, it's a lot harder for you to blend, to get fine details and those things. And it's so funny looking back when I first started painting, how I didn't realize that was part of my problem and part of the challenge of getting a smooth background. So first step, get a smooth canvas. I really like the watercolor canvas boards. Those are wonderful to paint on. These are the Blue Label Ultra Smooth canvases, really nice. And the Belgian linen. If you're just learning, I probably wouldn't put the money into the Belgian linen. They're wonderful canvases, but they cost, I wouldn't use that to learn on. But these Blue Label or a watercolor canvas board will make your life a lot easier if you are struggling to get smooth blending. So let's go ahead and, got windows popping up I don't need up. Here we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and get that going. And this one is a stretched canvas. It is stapled on the back, so I can paint the edges, and this one would be able to be hung with or without a frame, which is nice. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is start with a fairly large brush. This one is a Simply Simmons. It is a flat brush. I actually prefer filbert brushes where it's a slightly rounded tip like you're seeing here on the palette. The reason I'm going with this is it's just one of the bigger ones, so it's going to be convenient for what I'm doing here. But I do prefer normally a rounded tip like that, because what happens when you have a flat brush, the start and stop points of each brush stroke are much more obvious than they're going to be with a filbert. So here though, just because of the size of the brush, you can see the difference on the canvas. One of these is going to make my life easier just because of the size there. So, and when I rinse this, when I'm done painting with the larger brush, I'll have to go rinse it in the sink because this one's kind of too big for my water well. So, okay. If you do have a question for me, make sure you highlight the @Lachri Fine Art. If it does not highlight in orange, I just won't see it. Not because I'm trying to ignore you, I just don't see it. So when I paint with acrylics, I always mix water in with it. Now there are videos out there, because I know this will get asked, so I will go ahead and clear this up now. There are videos out there that tell you not to mix water with your acrylics, and how the one that's more popular actually has comments turned off because she's wrong about everything. Well, not everything. She's got a bit of truth mixed in with a whole lot of not truth. You can mix water just fine with acrylics with no ill effects. Words are hard. The thing is, the more water you add, the less adhesive it is, meaning if I have a lot of water and I do like a really thin glaze with water, I could kind of scrape it off with my fingernail or a brush. If I'm really scrubbing, that can start to lift off. And the type of acrylic paints that you're using will make a difference. Thing is, once it's varnished, it's not coming off. It doesn't flake off. It doesn't peel or chip. If you're having your paint flake and chip and peel, it could be that you used a bad canvas, that the primer was bad. It could be that your technique, you're using the wrong canvas, like a real smooth canvas, but globbing that paint on with like a palette knife where it's really thick and there's nothing for that paint to grip to long term to the canvas. That can cause problems. And just crappy paint can peel. But like using the Liquitex Basics, which by the way, yes, they're less expensive than like Liquitex Heavy Body or the Soft Body, but because they're translucent, they just work well for my techniques. So they're still light fast though. Well, at least the colors I use are light fast. They do make some that aren't, but these are. So just a few things to throw in there. But yeah, those scare tactic type videos that are like, never mix with water, always use a glazing medium. I don't like the glazing medium. In most cases. There are cases I actually do like it, but for the most part, I really prefer water for the way that I glaze, the way that I layer. So yes, you can use water with your acrylics, and I strongly recommend using water with them. Got a couple of questions here. Cavium said, I've been thinking, do you know how many paintings you have? Do you have a goal? Thinking to make it a special piece for my 100th later in life. I have thousands and thousands and thousands of paintings. I don't even remember. I will kick you out of that. Hold on. Got to kill a chicken. Not my chicken. Hey. You don't belong here. Go away. This isn't your house. I'm having chicken battles out on my balcony right now because the Eastern Phoebe that lives out there, that's lived out there for like a year, a new buddy showed up that they were just fighting. So and the new buddy is actually terrified of me. Unlike the other one knows, like, totally trusts me. I can be out there, hang out with him. He doesn't care. The new one though is your normal, like, sketchy and afraid of people like they should be. So they were fighting, and I don't want the one that's been here forever and trusts me to be picked on. So I have to chase him away every so often. Anyway, totally nothing to do with this video. Yeah, I have thousands of paintings, and it's funny because every once in a while I'll see a photo. Someone will show me a photo of one of my old ones from like 20 years ago. It's like, wow, I know that's mine, but I totally don't remember painting it. I sat down at one point just to kind of count how many it was, and I hit 1,000 and was like, yeah, I'm not going to keep counting. There's just too many. But that'd be cool. I like the idea of doing a special one for your 100th. That's really cool. I don't have any goals. I just paint, goals number-wise. Starving Artist Collective say, yay, made it. Pets walked in and fed, pottery in the kiln, firing, coffee in hand, not ready to be amazed. P.S. I love the Halloween painting. Thank you. Painting Violet Sky says, hi, Lisa, do you gesso and sand a few layers before working on a blue label? Nope, it's already gessoed, already smoothed. I think these are double primed, so very, very smooth. Don't need to do anything. They're just ready to go right off the bat. What kind of glazing medium? If I use a glazing medium, which is not often, I use the Liquitex one. Baby Pandas, missed you the last couple of weeks. How was your trip? Hope you had tons of fun. I was exhausted. It was tons of fun. Super exhausted. Super glad to be home. But no, it was a lot of fun. The aqua shell itself, I sold like 2 prints. So, I mean, financially not worth it, but the networking there of meeting all of the other YouTubers and quite a few that I want to do collabs with or that we're planning on it. One actually is here in Fort Worth, which is really cool. So, I'm not in Fort Worth, but close enough to me. So, yeah, no, it was really good as far as networking. So really glad I went, had a ton of fun. So, and I mean, when I talk about like, oh, I didn't sell a lot of prints, my booth was literally just a 6-foot table and I threw the prints on top of it. I didn't put much effort in because I was traveling and I had to be able to take it on the plane and it was a whole thing. So it wasn't an impressive booth by any means. So you have to keep that in mind. I can't make it sound like, oh, no one bought anything. I didn't impress anybody. Anyway, so, I can definitely take a lot of the blame on things not selling. So, and I'm going to make my booth in Dallas coming up this spring. That's going to be fun. That one I'm going to put a lot more into because it's local and I will be able to do that. So that one will be a lot better and I should have my Greyhound by then. And if the Greyhound is good in public, I want to bring him or her with me. So that I've already picked out the clownfish martingale collar that they can wear. So that'll be fun and hopefully draw some more attention to the booth. So right now, as I go on here, you can see this is streaky. I've got some phthalo blue, hooker's green, and unbleached titanium white. I don't care that much what this color is. I just want to get a base so I'm not fighting the white of the canvas anymore. And I'm not going to worry about painting the edges of this canvas. I'll paint them black before I give it to the person this is for. And so the goal of this painting eventually, this one is going to be a gift for one of my friends who actually runs Aquashella. He loves snails, so I'm going to do the Aquashella. This won't happen tonight, but the Aquashella logo. But the inside is going to be, the shell will be based on the, chuck a paint there, will be based off, or have a snail, like, to go with his thing. So that is the plan for this, but I want to do this underwater, just creating depth here. Now, see how this first layer has these streaks, and this is what can be really frustrating for a lot of people when working with acrylics. Don't worry about it. That's totally normal at this point. Adding a bit more water, mix some greens. I don't really care. Like I said, this color, not a big deal what this comes out like. I just want to get some paint on there, let it dry, and then once that's dry, and I'll go ahead and come back and answer some more questions. And I'm not even going to worry about trying to blend light to dark here. I just want a base on there. If it shifts and the color is not exact, like here it's getting darker, no big deal. I didn't clean my palette very well, so I keep having chunks of paint I have to pick out there. I'll need to wipe that up after I get this layer in. There's another chunk of paint. That's not an issue of the paint. That's an issue of I didn't clean my palette. And so pieces that had dried before are coming out on the canvas. So I just need to pick that apart a bit more. Now, Liquitex Basics are fairly translucent, and that is one of the big complaints I hear people make about them, that it's hard. Like here, I mean, you can see the brush strokes. It's very streaky. That's a good thing in my case because of the way that I glaze and layer. But you're going to do multiple layers. This is not a paint by number. I mean, if you were trying to do a paint by number, I would not recommend Liquitex Basics. We want to do multiple layers. This is how I'm going to create depth in this. And I can just set that to the side. That brush is wet enough. It shouldn't start to dry or anything, but I do need to blend this out. So what I'm going to do, this is what, to blend out my brush strokes. This is a makeup brush. I'm going to call it a mop brush, but it is really just a makeup brush. And I'm going to use a couple. I always have a couple of these on hand. Now, when you do this, you want to hold it all the way at the back. And I'm keeping my hand very, very loose, or wrist very loose, I should say. And my goal is not to blend the color. My goal is to get rid of the brush strokes. You have to do this quickly, and it is going to take a couple of brushes because what happens, this brush, as it picks up paint, it starts to create brush strokes. You can see as it comes off on my paper towel, it will start to create brush strokes instead of taking them away. So it'll do the opposite of what you want. So you've got a couple of things that you have to balance when you're getting rid of brush strokes like this. One, I have a bit too much water on this because it's so wet. That is going to create more brush strokes. So I need to kind of let it dry a little bit. But the paint could be a little bit thicker, but if your paint is too thick, that can make more brush strokes and be a challenge. You know, it's just finding a balance. And if you have a bad layer, no big deal. You're just going to layer on top of it anyway. So I'm going to put that brush to the side for a second and grab another one. Same thing. These are just makeup brushes. You can get brushes. Oops, I pushed too hard. You can get brushes by, this brush is not working. This is actually creating a bunch of globby messes. So let's put you to the side. I know you work well. For this, made by art supply companies, the problem is with the art ones, they tend to shed worse. The makeup brushes don't really shed. Rarely do they shed. And I'm just going to do a couple of these. Yeah, this is too wet, so I'm getting these. See how I've got these little globs all over? Let's do this a bit more. I'm going to get a few more of these out. Yeah, way too wet. Jeez, I screwed that up. But here's the thing. It's not perfect. Doesn't matter. Not something to be upset about or worry about or anything like that. We're going to layer until it looks how we want. And I'm going to actually go ahead and just go side to side and get rid of, I'm not using this brush properly here, but I can get rid of a few more of those, sop up some of the water. I'm going to rinse out these brushes. And when I rinse these out, you're not going to see this, but I will explain to you what I'm doing. I'm only going to put the tips of the water in my water well. There's no reason to get the whole brush wet because it'll take freaking forever to dry. So, and then I'll squeeze that out and then take it onto a paper towel and get it dry as quickly as I can, because these brushes I always want dry and ready to go. If they're wet, they do not work. And that's another reason you typically want multiples. Even slightly damp is not going to work. Do that on the other two. I'm going to let that set for just a few minutes so it can start to dry a little bit. And then I'm going to go over it again with one of these mop brushes. Although now at this stage, there's a good chance what'll happen is parts will start to dry a little more than others. And when I blend, it'll lift. So it may actually make things worse, but it doesn't matter. Base layer. You can't hurt this. So don't freak out as you're doing this if you have layers that don't look good. You're not done. It's a layering process. You cannot hurt anything. So I'm going to let that set a second. We'll get caught up on some questions. Let's see. Joseph said, I have a cat, Pause the Stray, that is the same situation. Oh, Pause the Stray, that is the same situation. Not my cat. Comes to hang out with cats, will come inside my house. So not my cat. That's hilarious. This one, I mean, technically neither of those Eastern Phoebes are mine. But I really like the one that's out there. And it's funny because I didn't realize, I wasn't sure if the one that hangs out with me was just weird and weirdly comfortable with me, or if they were all pretty unafraid of people. Turns out the one I call mine, but the one that's been out there all this time, he's just used to me and knows I'm not going to mess with him. He'll just watch me when I walk around watering plants. He just looks at me. I can talk to him. If anything, he'll sometimes hop a few feet away, but he stays on the balcony. He doesn't just fly away. The one now is very sketchy. If it even sees me moving around through the windows, he'll bolt or she'll bolt. But he's being a jerk to the one that's been here forever. I mean, I guess they've only got a month before I move, so they're all going to have to find a new house. But yeah, I'll just chase them away when they start fighting. Let's see. Christy said, Kirsty, I always say Christy, I'm sorry. Kirsty said, hi, Lisa, I'm so glad I got the live stream. I usually am working at 11 a.m. on a Thursday. That's the time here in Australia. Well, I'm glad you made it. Let's see. Do you think it helps when I shout the word you are looking for at the monitor? God, I need to blow up the text. This is really hard for me to read. Definitely it helps. Any good at sketchbooks for acrylics, or any good sketchbooks for acrylics? I don't like painting on paper, so it's not my choice. I don't know if there are any good ones, just because it's not something I enjoy doing, so I've never really researched it. You need to have something that is marketed for that, or you need to gesso the paper first yourself. Otherwise, the paint just soaks in a not fun way. Let's see. Am I participating in Inktober this year? School makes it a bit harder to make a piece every day. No, I don't have time. I barely have time to do like my full projects. So no, I don't know that I ever will. It's so time consuming. And then if I do that, I can't do the things I need to do. So I love watching everybody else's or seeing everything everyone else posts though. So that's cool. I was wondering, how should I go about advancing my skills of anatomy and foreshortening, etc.? My goal is to draw from imagination, and I can already do it well, but I'd like to improve. Well, if you want to do realistic, you don't draw from imagination. The end. I mean, that's really how it is. Yes, you will get to a point, if you've drawn hundreds or thousands and thousands of people, you will get to the point where you can draw without looking at something. But that takes a long, long time. Drawing from imagination, there's a reason there are so many different art tools out there, little models and such of human anatomy for you to look at, because we need to look at that. I mean, memorizing, let's see if this is, yeah, I can soften that a bit. Memorizing those, most people's memory is not that good. I mean, like something like this, I can get away with not having a reference photo and working from my mind, but it's not something that's supposed to be super realistic. If you're going for something that's really realistic, first, just practice. The more you draw, like I said, I can draw a whale or a dolphin and have it fairly accurate because I've drawn thousands of them, but that takes a very, very long time of practice. And even then, I mean, you look at the best animators, they're still using reference. So they may adjust that reference, but they're still, if they have a photo of a lion, but the lion's not in the right angle or whatever, they can adjust that, but they're still looking at something to get other details accurate. So see how this blended nicely now that it was starting to dry just a bit? I had a bit too much water on there. So big difference. But anyway, you're going to look at something. I don't know why artists get stuck in their head that they're better and drawing from imagination is the way to go. You're still going to look at something. Oh God, that was my phone. Hold on. I need to mute that. That's going to scare the crap out of me. I'm not used to having the volume on that. That was a mistake. Like, what's making this noise in front of me? But there's nothing wrong with having a reference, and it is good if you can adjust and change that reference if you don't have the exact reference that you need, but you're still going to look at something. So kind of, I would recommend get out of this idea, unless you're drawing cartoons, get out of this idea that you're not supposed to use a reference or you want to work from imagination. I mean, great, unless you want things to be realistic. Yeah, that would be my thing there. But as far as improving your skills, draw more. That is how you improve. You draw more and you draw accurately. This is another thing that I see a lot with teenagers, especially, where they think, okay, I want to draw people, So I'm going to keep drawing people from my mind. I'm not looking at a reference photo. I'm just going to keep drawing from my mind over and over and over again. You know what you do? Keep making the same mistakes over and over again. You're not actually improving your drawing skills or your accuracy. You want to draw from reference. You want to draw from something realistic over and over and over again. That is how you improve, not from drawing more from memory. If that, hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, you want drop the idea of, I want to draw all the time from my imagination. You will still have reference. If you want to be good, you will still have a reference. You don't have to copy the reference photo exactly, but you will have or model or whatever. You will have a reference somewhere that you're looking at it if you want realism. But yeah, drawing more, but drawing more while looking at something is my advice there. Elaine said, this may be silly. Oh, that scrolled too far. Come back, Elaine. Where did you go? That went way far. Okay, there we go. Elaine said, this may be a silly question. When you list a drawing as an 8x10, is the paper size or what you're putting on it, is it that paper size or, God, I cannot see up this tiny writing. Hold on. Actually, I think I can fix this. Am I fixing it? No, it's not changing the font. You're supposed to change that. There it goes. Okay, now maybe I can see a little bit better. This may be a silly question. When you list a drawing size as an 8x10, oh, that my computer is going slow. Now it's really big, and now I lost the question. I'm a pro. When you list the drawing as an 8x10, is that the paper size, or are you putting it in a mat? Do you consider it an 11x14? Just making sure I'm doing it right. If I list it as something I'm selling, the artwork is the 8x10. So the artwork is an 8x10, then that is what I sell it by. An 8x10 overall size would be 11x14 in a mat. So I let people know it's going to fit into an 11x14 inch frame, but the artwork itself is considered an 8x10. That is actually a really good question. Casey said, how long does the convention at Aquashella last? It was 2 days. Nope, that was not. Heather said, I really tried following your advice this Inktober. I am layering blacks with purples, etc. They do not layer like paint, but I had to try. You tried, huh? Layering black. I'm not sure what you're layering, but it's good to try new things. With art, experimenting, I will say that. I'm not sure I'm reading that right. I don't think I am. I'm going to blame me on that one. Jesse said, do you remember the brand of makeup brush you used? Also, your jack-o'-lantern painting is awesome. Thank you. Yeah, this one is a Real Techniques brush. This one's probably my favorite of the mop brushes because the handle is very lightweight. The one that I just used a minute ago, where did it go? This one, dusting and powder brush. I love the bristles. I hate the end of this. It's long, but it's what you want. It makes it easier to keep a loose hand, but it's heavy. And because it's heavy, it's harder to keep a light hand with it. So I definitely prefer the Real Technique brushes, and there should be a link in the description. If there's not, there would be on one, like recent videos, hopefully, of acrylics. But it's a really lightweight brush, and so these ones are really easy. They have them at Ulta. Sometimes you get them on sale at like Ross or TJ Maxx or Marshall's if you have a store like that around. They have them on Amazon occasionally, but these are my favorites. Let's see. Paola said, what happens if the paint dries in one spot and wet in another? Do you just blend what you can and do another layer? Yeah. I mean, hopefully it's blending all about the same. If it's drying too fast in one area before you blend it, you need to work faster. I know people don't like that answer for acrylics, but it is you have to work fast with acrylics. Now, there are things that you can do to slow that down. One is to use an airbrush and mist water. I've had people ask if they could use spray bottles, and someone will always watch. Give this video a few months or a year, and somebody will come back going, oh, I use a spray bottle. Yeah, the spray bottles don't work as well. There's a reason I always tell people not to go with those. They leave heavy droplets. And they may be okay for a few times, and randomly you'll have a heavy droplet that pulls the paint off, and it causes more trouble than it's worth. Get a little hobby kit, single action airbrush. They're about $30, $35. I think there's some on my website under the supply list. I don't sell them, but on the supply list there. Get those. That's going to give you a way better, more even misting that won't cause paint to lift off, but you can spray it and keep it wet. I could keep this painting wet for hours if I want, but that is the best way I found. And people will ask, well, can I use retarders? You could if you want your paint to be goopy and nasty, and it does not work for my techniques. I do not like any sort of acrylic painting retarder. I hate the way it makes it work. Open acrylics, same thing. Don't like them. When I'm working with acrylics, if I need it to stay wet for me, I always just mist water and with an airbrush, not a spray bottle. Very different. And they make spray bottles that are better than a normal spray bottle that are still a fine mist, but you'll still get those random heavy droplets that can cause a lot of problems that it's just not worth it. I would get the little $35 hobby kit with a can of air and use that. Rachel said, any advice for painting lion's fur? I'm working on a piece right now, but I have so much trouble. It just looks muddy. You're probably over blending if it's muddy. I mean, is it a problem with the color or is it a problem? I mean, without seeing the work, it's hard for me to give you direct advice on this is what I would change. If it's coming out muddy, I'm guessing you're over blending while it's still wet. Let your paint dry and then put your next layer on top of it. That's usually what causes things to be muddy. When I work with lions, I mean, the normal colors I would use would be raw umber, raw sienna, deep violet for the shadows. Unbleached titanium white. Those are my general go-to colors. If you're adding black to shade, you're going to end up with gray and kind of a muddy. That may be your problem. If you are mixing black in with those colors, that's going to give you not probably the best result. So that may be the thing that's causing the mud for you. Without seeing it, I'm not really sure. I'm going to go ahead and dry this really quick so we can get started on the next layer. Okay, I'm going to see if I can adjust really quick the white balance on this because that is showing to be a bit too yellow. Give me 1 second here. Bigger video. That's more accurate. Okay. Donna said, I want to do my first oil, animal, fish, or bird from one of your tutorials. What do you recommend for a newbie? I'm a Patreon member. For oil, do I have an oil? Hold on, I'll look this up. I need to see what's on there right now. If you are interested in videos that I do have available on Patreon, the last few are not on there yet, but go to lachri.com/Patreon, what is it? Patreon videos, Patreon-videos. The link, just go to lachri.com and the beginning of the page will have where you can click on to see all my, it's Patreon/videos or -videos, not slash. Let's see, in oils, you scroll down quite a ways. Oils are way down there. Oh my gosh, lots of acrylic. There we go. Here's some oil painting. Which ones would I start with? The rose and oil paint. Okay, you want animals. The rose and oil paint and the apple and oil paint, I think, are the best two to start with. But besides that, the betta fish oil painting, because of that one's a good one because of the way that I did it in just the 2 tones. So you're not having to worry about color and then you add glaze color on top. I would say the betta, if you want a fish, is probably the best. But really any of them, I need to do more oil paintings, it looks like. Any of the betta or any whatever draws your attention, whatever you look at and you're like, I'm excited, I want to paint this. That's really what you should do. You're going to learn the most from that. The betta is good because it's a beginning one, more of a beginner thing. But when you're painting something, you learn so much more if it's something you're interested in. It doesn't have to look exactly like mine or exactly like the reference photo. You're still learning, but you have more fun if it's something you're interested in, I think. Okay. Oh, are we caught up? No, we are not. I just scrolled way too far. Oh my gosh, way too far. Here we go. Oh, wow, I missed a bunch. Give me 1 second to find where we were. There we go. Sarah said, someone put out a video on using reference photos. Orman, Christy, Rebecca, Fine Art. Cool. Oh, you were talking to somebody else. That highlighted me. Heather said, I layered purple or blue ink with black ink, hoping it wouldn't be flat. It didn't work out, but I had to try. Well, ink is a little bit different because ink comes out very matte, so it can look a little bit, that may be why, or depending on the ink too, the ink may end up overpowering. Black ink will usually overpower the other colors a lot, so that can do it too. Nick said, boy, am I going to look silly at Ulta when I ask for makeup brushes. Go to the cheap makeup brush side too. If you go to Ulta to get these, I mean, you just get them on Amazon, but if you were to go to Ulta, it's like they have the expensive makeup and then they have the cheap makeup side. Go to the cheap makeup side is where this one is. I would not spend too much money on these. I'm good. Thank you, Ursies. Blue Tea Art, can I use this method on heavy-bodied acrylics? Yeah, you're going to have to thin it a little bit more with water. The problem with heavy-bodied acrylics, they dry so fast. I'm going to actually scrape some of this because I was getting those chunks of paint. But they dry really, really, really fast, which can make your life more difficult for blending. I don't use my I have a full set of heavy body. I hardly ever use them. Unless I'm painting big, thick, chunky paint, like something impressionistic, that I don't like them very much. They're not the right fit for this technique, for me anyway, just because the dry, even on my palette, they just dry really fast. So, yeah, I think the basics are a better option. Okay, my razor blade really needs to be replaced. There's so much dried paint on it. Let's see if I can get some of those chunks off though. That should help. Okay. Eileen says, what do you suggest color combinations for background for animal portraits? Depends on the animal. There's no one right answer. And it depends on the person who it's for. I mean, what house it's going in. So one animal can look great with 30 or 40 or 100 different background options. There's no like one background color combination that would be right for anything. Would you recommend always mixing water with acrylics as opposed to using acrylic paint on its own? Yes, because the acrylic paint on its own, it's too thick and it dries very quick and it doesn't blend smoothly. Now, if I'm doing something that's very impressionistic, heavy brush strokes, then I may not mix the water with it. But other than that, I always mix water with it. Are we caught up? Oh, trying to get caught up on questions before I get started on the painting really quick. Are there any resources your own or others that you recommend for beginners to look to improve drawing and shading accurately, painting and color theory? Not that I can think. I mean, there's plenty out there, but I just jump in and start painting. I don't necessarily recommend spending too much time studying, if you're a beginner, working on color theory as a whole, or like that being the thing to focus on. Just start painting. That is how you're going to learn hands-on. Once you've been painting for a while, then when you read or look at a color theory book or color theory advice, it's going to make a lot more sense to you. But when you're getting started, just start painting. Make a mess. Paint something ugly. This is how you're going to learn the most. You can read all the books you want, but until you have the practical side of it, where when you're reading in the book and it says this and this happens when you mix this, and you're like, oh, that makes sense. That happened to me. If you read it on its own, you're not going to retain that information. It's not going to make a ton of sense to you. Start painting. But no, I can't think of anything just specifically on color theory other than just get started. Just start painting and drawing. Follow tutorials if you want, that's helpful. But, gosh, I didn't get all of the chunks out. Just start painting is what I would advise. I know you're looking for something more specific, and I can't. There's one, a color theory. What is it? James Gurney has a really good color theory book. But again, even that, it's not going to make a ton of sense to you until you've been painting for a little bit longer, assuming you're a beginner. I don't think you said you were a beginner. But if you've been painting for a while, the one by James Gurney is good. There are a lot of color theory videos on YouTube where I'm just massive facepalm. Oh, Lena Dania had one that was actually pretty good on color mixing. Hers was with oil paint, but you can apply that to anything. I would check out her video. She knows what she's talking about. There was another video that went viral. Everyone was sharing all over the place by somebody, and the information was so wrong, so incorrect. And I'm just listening to this going, and people are going to listen to that and think it's like gospel and everything is correct and amazing. And Angel's saying when she said these things, and it's like, no. But no, Lena Dania is a good one. She had a recent video go up, so I would look up hers. Took me a minute to think. I'm like, there are actually things that I can recommend. But like I said, just jump in. If you're a newer painter or newer to painting, don't worry too much about these things. Just jump in and start painting. It's easy to get worked up on, I need to know the exact right color. I need to know what to choose. And the reality is your contrast and values are what matter. Just get started. Just start painting. Throw the paint on there. After you've been painting for a while, then you're just going to learn so much from the experience of painting itself. Holy, out of focus. Oh, actually, is it just my video here? Yeah, that is why. Okay. Let's see. Elaine said there we go again. Elaine said, if mixing graphite and colored pencil, would you put graphite down first, spray with workable fixative, and then colored pencil, or separate the two completely? For me, I separate them completely. The only time I would layer them is if I did water-soluble graphite first, because that doesn't seem to it doesn't have the same slickness that regular graphite pencils have, so you're still able to layer the colored pencil pretty well on top of it. I don't like how it looks when they're mixed myself. I'm going to need to get blue on the next layer. Let's get this one down first. And then I'll start worrying about blending and fading. But I just want to get a couple of layers. I am not getting far on this tonight, am I? I just want to get those couple of layers. But gosh, these chunks of paint, this is what happens when you don't clean your easel before you start painting. I thought I cleaned it. I just did a terrible job. I'm using paint from, this is the same palette I used. I just added more colors to it when I painted the pumpkin. So this has been on here for weeks. These palettes are amazing for keeping the paint wet. So I'm reusing older paint. Dried sections are in there. This is all going to be rock. So actually that doesn't even need to be blended. There is hair stuck in there. I've got all kinds of stuff that is on that palette. Okay, let's go ahead and get rid of some of these brush strokes. I'm going to go the opposite direction here. And I'm barely letting the tip of the bristles of this brush touch the canvas. You do not want to push hard. If you're creating brush strokes, first thing you want to do, try drying it off and see if you're picking up too much paint. And if not, it could be a case like what I had happen earlier where I had mixed too much water in it. It was a bit too thin. Just letting it dry a bit helped out. This is good. That's soft enough for that base layer. So we'll let that dry. And then we'll start blending where I fade from the light to the dark and actually getting colors more what I wanted. But now I'm not fighting against the white of the canvas. So let's dry that. That needs to set for a minute. I'll dry it again. It's not finished being dried. But yeah, going back, Elaine, to your question about the colored pencil and graphite. The reason that I don't like colored pencil on top of graphite's just too slick, and the colored pencil doesn't have enough to grip to. And it ends up, if that graphite mixes in, even when I've sealed it, if it mixes in with the colored pencil, you end up with this kind of like muddy look that I just don't like. Pamela said, my local art store had canvases 5 for, it didn't finish. Vicky said, thank you so much for doing this stream. I know how difficult it can be to do both paint and stay engaged in chat. You're a unicorn. Thank you, Vicky. Okay, I think we're caught up on questions. Okay, let's see if I can actually focus a bit on what I'm doing here. So I'm going to throw some phthalo blue in here. And the phthalo blue is going to be closer to green on the color wheel than like ultramarine blue, which is closer to purple, which I don't want. I want to keep this a very kind of green. I actually want to muddy it up a bit. So I'm probably going to pull some reddish brown tones in there. That's a big chunky, like you can I don't know if it shows very well on the palette, but that is chunky. The paints sometimes, if it's older or just certain colors, browns especially do this with Liquitex Basics. They come out and they're like globby or like, I don't know, they don't look right as the end of that. It doesn't look all smooth like the rest of them. Mix water and with it, it's still usable. If I got a new tube of paint and did that, I would probably return it because I don't want to deal with having to mix water with it. But if you do have that happen, don't feel like you can't use the paint. It's still usable. It's just globby, chunky, like you would need to mix that out. Okay, let's see if I can clean up some more of my mess here of these chunks of paint. They're driving me insane. Probably would have been a good idea for me to go ahead and just change the palette all the way when I started, but I did not think that far ahead. Okay. That is okay. Here's another big tip for acrylics. This right now, not completely dry, mostly dry. I mean, I can touch it. Paint's not coming off on my hands, but it's kind of cold. That's a good way to tell if the paint is not dry. There's a lot of water in it. If I were to take the brush and start layering, it's going to lift my previous layer off. Not both layers, because the first layer was completely dry, but this last layer I did would just pull right off the canvas. You need it to be 100% dry before you go on to your next layer when you're layering like this. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up with the hairdryer. I hear chickens out there again. Better not be picking on the one I like. Okay. So this being an underwater type scene, I've got to do two things. One, I need to start getting the color and values and all of that where I want it, but I also need to start working on making sure I'm creating depth. So with the foreground, I'm going to have some sand, some pebbles and rocks and such, and that's going to fade off into the background, the same background color as the water. So, and then I'll of course have the water surface up here like you guys have seen me do tons of times. So I think, actually, I may not even do that. I may not have the water surface show. I may make it look like it's so deep that that's not, yeah, I don't think I'm going to have that showing. Okay, well, at least one decision was made. So now, what colors do I want to go with on this? I need a greenish, like a teal, kind of muddy. I'm just going to throw a bunch of words together. We're just going to mix some of this paint. Ooh, I'm liking that. I'm going to pull a little bit of this reddish brown. I'm just going to help muddy it up. Actually, just throw some orange of that in there. That'll give me a nice muddy color. I don't have the exact green color that I want. This color here is really what I'm looking for, but I'm going to have to mix a whole bunch more of that. So let's just pull a bunch of I've got phthalo blue, phthalo green. When I mix colors, some people like to make these big color charts. I don't bother. I just start mixing until I get it to be what I want. I want mud, so being that I'm using blue, throwing orange in there is going to help me, being that they're complementary, that's going to help muddy that up for me. This is more the color that I'm looking for. Oh, that's pretty. I like that a lot. Okay. Now, the darker part, I want this, and I want it fade to where it gets lighter. I don't want to start with this color by adding white because it's going to be harder for me to blend down back to this color. So I'm just going to start with the bottom instead. Now, you know how I said I don't recommend using a spray bottle? There is an exception. Here, if I want to just get the base layer, get everything wet because I haven't even blended paint on it yet, I'm just a dry canvas. This is one of those times that I may use a spray bottle. Just for that base there. So I don't have to mix as much in with my paint over here. Now it's going to blend on smoother or more easily. That is pretty much the only time that, and if I'm painting a very large mural, then I may also use a spray bottle because the most homes that I've painted murals on were on very, very rough surfaces or very large anyway. So those droplets of water spraying on there were not noticeable. Wasn't a problem. Not like on a canvas. And see, this is fairly thin. That green is just showing through a bit, which adds to building up that depth that I want. Now, I can't blend this out with the mop brush yet because there's a lot of water on there that's going to have to set for a few minutes before I can start softening that. But I am going to go ahead. I'm going to pull some unbleached titanium white for this upper section. And the reason that I went with unbleached titanium white, the titanium white is like a cooler color, closer to blue, I guess, whereas this is a cream, and the cream is going to give me a nicer soft look, which I really want for this. Underwater with freshwater, very different than how I would do underwater for saltwater. With saltwater, you tend to have the more violet, like really, or not violet, but very rich, bright colors. Whereas underwater, I'm going to mute those and give it a more greenish tint. With underwater, you're going to have the tannins from branches and trees and leaves and all of that. It gives you almost more of a yellowish tint to it. And I'm just going to work that brush back and forth. I'm kind of going in that U shape. Now you may be thinking, well, why don't you just paint it the color you wanted in the first place? This gives me a lot more depth than what I would get. These brushes don't dry all the way, crap. Than what I would get, and my paper towels are all wet. I need new paper towels. Than what I would get if I just did the right color where I wanted it. This really, when you see it in person, the way that the light refracts through each of these layers, it adds a lot of depth, I can't talk, to the piece. Okay, that one should be good. Now with me, I'm going to be doing some airbrushing with this, so that's going to hide a lot of mistakes I might not have perfectly smooth here. This is still a bit too wet, so I'm just barely letting that touch. It's starting to pick up too much paint. I can tell because I'm starting to get some, yeah, it's creating more brush strokes than it is taking it away. So I'll wipe that brush off and try again. Any clean brushes down here? That one will. So this is one, it'll shed like crazy, which is annoying, and I have to pick all the hairs out. But this brush is one that is an actual art brush. It's a very lightweight handle, and I can hold it all the way at the back. It's really nice for the results that you get, except that it sheds like crazy, and I end up having to pick the hairs out. Sometimes it's worth it because this one's dry and my others are not. Luckily, this one's not really shedding too bad right now. Probably because the paint isn't terribly thick. The thicker the paint, the more it grips and pulls these hairs out. So this is really okay for my base there. Because I'm going to be putting grassy bits and all of that in here, so I don't need this to be perfectly smooth. But what I do want to go ahead and start doing, and I can do this while it's still wet, is putting the sand base in there. Carlene said, what color do you recommend to make a neon effect? Neon's hard. I mean, neon, like a neon sign, or like you want the colors to be neon, because they do make neon colors. The problem is neon colors or fluorescent colors, they're not light fast. So that's going to be the problem there. If you mean a neon sign, which is funny because I'm actually going to do all this not tonight, but I'm going to give it that glowing effect around the Aquashella logo once that comes on there and part of the snail. So you'll see that on the final lesson. But it's using a lot of the bright white with a glow around it of pinks or whatever, blues, whatever color that you want that neon to look like. But like neon colors like fluorescent pink, you don't really mix that. You would buy the two, but they're not light fast, so keep that in mind. I don't choose to use them. Let's go up. JPC13 Art said, when you scrape the palette, it's weirdly satisfying. I can watch a 4-hour video of just that. It is, and it's even more satisfying to do it yourself. It's kind of like if you were to vacuum, like if birdseed got spilled on the floor and vacuuming it up and watching all that birdseed get sucked up. Same concept. Very enjoyable. Much more fun than if the floor is not really that dirty. Let's see. I know I definitely need to improve drawing accuracy, contrast, and values. Do you have any suggestions for improvement? One thing that you can do, and there's, tons of things you can do, but one thing that I do think is a lot, makes it a little bit easier for people. Let's say you've worked on a drawing or a painting and you want to hype up that contrast. Take your phone, take a photo of it, use any photo editing app, and hype up the contrast. Then use that as your reference photo. Go back to your work, and if it looked better on the phone, go back and make that on yours. And I think that can really help to get away from that fear of, it's scary. Making things high contrast is very scary. And that is one of those things that I think help so much for so many people is if you can see what it would look like if you made those changes, it's way less scary to jump in and make those changes. So that would be my biggest tip, I think. So I'm going to have some sand. I'm just kind of grabbing some of the browns that are on the palette. I don't care what, it doesn't, color, I wish I could get people to understand, myself included, when I started painting, I kind of wish I understood this. Color is not a big deal. Don't stress yourself out about making perfect color. I need unbleached titanium white. I don't have any out. Well, no, I don't think I have any out at all, and I'm too lazy to go grab it. I'll just mix something that's close enough. Color doesn't need to be exact. Don't work yourself up over those colors. Values are what matter. So what I'm going to do, while this is still wet, this is wet into wet blending. I need to switch to a slightly smaller brush for some of this. Let's grab some more of that paint. And I've got to work quickly while it's still wet. So when you're up close, the water is not, you don't have as much water between you and the sand that you're viewing. So this can be brighter, and it needs to fade into that blue as I work my way back. Rocks and stones and pebbles are going to be in a lot of this. So that's going to hide a lot of mistakes that brush strokes and such that you may not want. All of this can actually have some brush strokes. That'll fade out over there, so that doesn't need to be perfect. And I just kind of want it to go off into the background. Now, I'm not going to use this brush as I normally would. Actually, I can use this one. I'm going to push a little bit harder. This paint is starting to dry. Now I'm kind of mixing the color. I am letting that mix. Okay, so see how I've got blotches here? That is going to be covered by the Aquashella logo. You're not even going to see any of this, so I'm not going to waste the time making that perfect. And I think when you're painting, you have to have an idea of what your plan is, so you know if this is something you needed to perfect, to smooth out, or in my case, doesn't matter. Let's grab this. I've got a little hair is showing through, or that shed off that one brush that I told you sheds like crazy. And then, of course, stones and such are going to be in there, so they don't matter either. Now, for me, I'm going to be doing a fair amount of airbrushing on this one. And one of the things that I'll do as I paint in some of the little plants and such in the background, I'll be airbrushing on top of that. And what that does is push those plants back even further. You'll still see the hint of them, but they're behind the paint. It makes it look like they're actually deep in the water. If you don't have an airbrush, you can do the same thing where you're just glazing on top of it. It just takes longer. But you can glaze instead of airbrushing that. You thin out your paint with water. Now, when you glaze with acrylics, unless you're using transparent mixing white, don't use white or opaque colors like the Naples yellow is too opaque, titanium white's too opaque. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. Unbleached titanium white is too opaque. You don't want to go with colors that are very opaque for a glaze. It will create a foggy mess. For a true glaze, you want a very translucent paint, which is why I like Liquitex Basics so much. Most of these colors are very translucent. They're perfect for glazing. I sound like I'm an advertisement for them. It's just that so many people question me on why I use this paint. Yes, it's inexpensive. It is archival. It is professional quality. It is a good paint. It's just a matter of how you're using it and applying it as to whether or not this is going to be the best choice for you. So let's go ahead. I can let that dry and get some questions. Nick says the hairdryer sounds freaky. Sorry. I probably should mute the mic when I do that, and I'll forget to unmute it. Carlene said, what colors do you recommend to make a neon? Oh, I got that one. That was the... Okay. Nick said, you mentioned thinning with water. Are you just wetting your brush and bringing it to the paint? Yeah, I'm getting the brush wet. I've got my little water wheel off to the side. I dip my brush in that, and then I go onto the paint onto the palette straight from there. I haven't figured out a way to let that be on the video without taking up so much real estate that the painting would be on. So I just have to explain to you guys what I'm doing there. But yes, I'm actually thinning this down. The paint on the palette, I thin with water. Christy said, haha, the birdseed thing, I can relate to that so much. I'm almost going to miss where the new house has the wood look tile throughout everywhere, including where the birds will be. There's nothing to, I have to just sweep up the seed instead of vacuum. It's not going to be as much fun when I spill. It may, in fact, be more annoying, actually, when I spill, because on tile, it's just going to fly everywhere. Can you tell I spill birdseed a lot? Like, that's apparently a thing with me, that I think about this a lot. I spill everything. Elaine, whoops. Scroll too far. Elaine said, sometimes I wonder if I go too dark with values because I love contrast. Maybe when you do a critique again, I'll finally find out. Yes, that'll be easier to look at. And when I open, I need to do those soon. And actually, because I'm packing, I'm going to eventually start packing my art supplies. My house is way getting done too fast. But I've packed some of my stuff in a box. I can get to it, but kind of not easy. So I think a lot of the live streams, I'm going to have to start doing some extra critiques and maybe digital painting, because that'll still be set up. So I'm going to, yeah, we'll have one coming up soon. But when I open up for the critique, which I think this one will be open over on MeWe to encourage people to use a much better platform than Facebook. No, I'm not giving that up. Make sure to include what it is what information you're looking for, what your goals were, and such like that. So it makes it easier for me to tell. Christy said, I saw a meme that reminded me of you. Said, if the world was flat, parrots would have thrown everything off the edge already. Oh my God, that is so true. Yes, there would be no more Q-tips. That is funny. Sorry, I'm getting all stuffed up. Allergies. Kathy said, looks like an awesome riverbed. Thanks. That's what I want it to look like. You can see it has, and in person, it looks way better than what you guys are seeing. But I love these greenish blue tones, yet you can still see through it these deeper yellowy greens. Kind of put, I don't know. I'm really, really happy in person with how this is looking. Again, way better than what you are seeing. Yours looks more blotchy on the video for some reason. It's not as blotchy in person. Make sure if you have a question for me that you are doing the Outlaw Cree Fine Art. If it doesn't highlight orange, I just don't see your questions in most cases, although I did catch this one. I also watch Color by Felix. He uses a mop brush to blend that doesn't shed like crazy. The handle looks like the Royal and Langnickel. He sells them with his name on it, $45. I haven't bought it yet. Thoughts? I may change my mind on this someday. But I'm not spending $45 on any paintbrush. I've never spent that much on a paintbrush. And I spend money on stupid stuff too, like a lot of stupid crap. I can get the results that I want with these. Now, I almost want to try it to see if the results are any different than what I get with these brushes. I mean, my makeup brushes, this is like $10. If that, sometimes it's like $8 or $7. All of these are fairly inexpensive, and they do what I need them to do. I've used other people that had expensive brushes and they were no different than my cheap brushes, at least for the type. Now, not that I've not used that one, so I can't bash it. It's just weird how the certain things that I'm cheap about. Apparently paintbrushes is one of them, and I didn't realize until just now. But that's very expensive. I'm curious how it compares with a cheaper version of that. It may be an absolutely amazing brush and worth it. I have no idea, so I can't bash it. I just know for me, spending $45 on a paintbrush kind of makes me cringe. It better be a really, really good brush. Now, on the flip side, for the most part, mop brushes, if you're taking care of them, they're going to last you freaking forever. Oh, speaking of, I'm not taking care of that. I should probably wash that. So you don't, I mean, I guess $45 on a brush that would last forever if it worked well is worth it. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'd be willing to spend that much on one. It'd have to be a really good brush. I'm curious. I may have to go look up and see how it's working for him in person. When I work with Inktense, it seems I go too dark really quickly, and if I use the white to lighten it, if I go over the white, any colors seem cloudy. Am I doing something wrong? Let the white dry. What happens when you put the white over it is it's very opaque, so you're losing, like, all of your colors with Inktense are fairly translucent except for black and white. Very, very translucent. So you put one layer, let's say I put violet, and then I put blue on top of it, and then I put green on top of that, and then I put violet on top of that. You're kind of seeing all of those previous layers through. When you put white, you just got rid of all those layers that you're kind of seeing through. So you're losing the depth in that, and it ends up looking very flat. So if I do add white, which sometimes I do, I'm going to have to put it several layers again to kind of build that up. And the thing is, because you're working with so many translucent layers, let's say I painted this all in Inktense, and I realized, oh my gosh, I screwed something up here. It just went too dark, like a little spot. So I cover that spot with white. I'm never going to get that to blend out and look the same as all these other translucent layers. It will never look the same. How would I fix it? I don't know. Paint a fish there, paint a mushroom there, paint whatever, paint something else to hide it, but it's never going to look quite the same as everything else around it. You're right. It will seem cloudy. The white, when it dries, will be very, very opaque, but because you're dealing with the rest of the Inktense being translucent, when you put the white on top of it, it's very opaque and it completely will cover that. And if you put it on very thin, then it's just going to be cloudy without being opaque. So yeah, it's just a layering process. I'm trying to think of how to give you tips on that. Try not to go so dark so quickly would be my advice. Build up more slowly. I think the better solution in this case, build up very slowly. The white is going to be cloudy because it's opaque. Build up your colors more slowly. So instead of going so dark, add more water. A lot more water. Let it dry. Do another layer with more water than you're used to using. You're not using enough water, and that is why it's coming out too dark too soon. Build up more light layers so you get that translucent, what I was talking about with each layer is a bit translucent. That's going to give you better results. And even if you put white over the whole thing, it came out cloudy. Now you've got to put color right back over it. Putting white on top of it isn't just making the colors that are there lighter. You'll give it a muddy, cloudy look. That's normal. But yeah, build your values up more slowly is going to be the solution there, not putting white over it to lighten them up. Wow. That took me like 10 minutes to explain something that really could be summed up in 2 sentences. Sorry about that. It took me a minute for my brain to kick in. Gail said, late to the party, but blame it on lasagna. Oh, so jealous. I want lasagna. I don't like pasta very much, but I do like lasagna. Let's see. We are caught up, I think, on questions. If you've asked a question and I missed it, I think I'm caught up right now, so I missed it completely. Just go ahead and type it again. Okay, I need this to dry. And I'm going to start giving the hint of some of the plants that are going to be in the background. We're going to let that set for a minute. Thirsty said, do you listen to any art business podcasts? I've been listening to your Colored Pencil podcast since it started. I'm feeling never better, by the way, but looking for others too. The only other one that I regularly, and I can't even say regularly, I'm really bad about forgetting I have podcasts on my phone because I usually listen to books. Tim Schmoyer. He, business and just YouTube in general. I have listened to his, not in a while, but he was the other one that I had subscribed to, like the podcast. What am I using? Podcast Addict, I think. Hold on, I'll tell you what it is. Yeah, Podcast Addict. But no, and there are a million of them out there. I've just been bad because I get hooked on my books and then I just focus on those. But Tim Schmoyer, video creators, I mean, you make videos, so that would be good for you too. I would check out his. Zale Zillion said, how do you manage your time with all of the things that you have to do? Do you make an agenda? Yes, I have a schedule that it has made my life so much better. So this is actually a good question because while we wait for this to dry, we'll go ahead and it's mostly dry, but I want to give it a couple seconds. But I had gotten behind on everything. And if you've been on Patreon for very long, I have never once in my life gotten Patreon postcards out on time. What should happen is like September postcards should go out mid-October because I get paid for those. So I know who's not canceling last minute or whatever. So I'm not buying dollars. Stamps, just to give you an idea, I spend $300 a month on stamps. So I don't want to buy a bunch of stamps for people who are not, or send things out to people who didn't actually pay or canceled or whatever. So the way that works, there's no way for me to know who to send those to until the following month. So September cards go out in October, except lately I've been like 2, 3, 4 months behind. It's been crazy. I am finally officially caught up on all the past ones. So if you're in the US, you should have gotten this week. You'll get September's, which is way early. And yes, this question this will eventually lead to answering your question. I'm going off on a side tangent to let people know your postcards are coming. If you're outside of the US, it can take, I've seen it take anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks for the postcards to get to you guys, but they've all been sent. I'm completely on time. I've never been on time in the 5 years I've been on Patreon. I forget. I've never once been on time with those. Because I never, for some reason, had doing the postcards to like on my schedule, ordering the stamps, getting everything done, and then actually doing labels and such. So I recently did, and I have a video about it that I went up recently about artists don't make my mistakes. This is what I'm talking about. I had no schedule. And so when I had all of the surgeries back in 2017, I used to be on a very strict schedule, except for those Patreon postcards apparently, but I was on a really strict schedule. I used to put out 5 videos a week, a lot of edited videos on top of the live streams. And the only way to do that was to have a very strict, from these hours to these hours, I'm working on this. I mean, it was a really strict schedule. Well, when I had all of the surgeries back in 2017 with all the health issues and all of that, it took me like 6 months to heal all the way to where I was back to normal. But I'd gotten out of the habit of being on schedule. Kind of like when you're used to going to the gym every day, you get sick and it's hard to get back into it. Same thing with the schedule. Now I'm back on one and I'm caught up with things. Like I have days I know, okay, I have time on Sunday to pack. I have time on this day to do that. I know exactly when to get things done. And the stress, I didn't realize how stressed I was all the time of always feeling like I was behind on stuff. The guilt of like, crap, I've got to do Patreon postcards. Crap, I need to respond to this email. Oh my gosh, I need to do that. Now I have a time for all of that because of the schedule. Yeah, that is how I'm able to get stuff done now. I've been on it for maybe a month. I don't remember. Whenever that video went up is about when I started it. The difference is incredible on what I'm able to accomplish. I feel like I have extra free time in the day. And you always think with schedules, like I'm going to lose time because I have schedules and I want to be free to do what I want when I want. I have more freedom now than I did before, and I'm getting more work done. It's been amazing being back on it. As much as I hate schedules, I also really love them because now I know what needs to be done and when, and I'm getting a crap ton more work done. So yes, I have a schedule. That took me 20 minutes. I'm really bad about taking way too long to answer questions that are super simple. Let's see. Fans here. It says, hello, hope you had fun in Chicago. I did. And Rico said he's making you come to Dallas, just so you know. Also, Rico's hilarious. But yeah, so just so you are aware, Dallas Aquashella, you're supposed to be there, Than. If you guys are unaware, Title Gardens, Than, he has a channel here on YouTube where he teaches you all about corals and some fish and all kinds of fun stuff. Great channel. So super fun. You should subscribe to him. It was his cat that I recently did in colored pencils with the coral. He's where I get all my coral reference photos. Those really amazing photos, they come from Than, his Patreon. You can pay just $5 a month and you get, I think it's like 50 of these super high resolution coral photos, like amazing photos. That's where I get all those from. So you guys should definitely check him out. Let's see. Serena said, I'm getting Faber-Castell Aquarelle pencil soon, and I notice it seems similar to ink when water is added. Can you use white Inktense to make highlights? What about white charcoal? Yeah, you technically could. And I actually considered doing that. I've only done one project so far with the Faber-Castell Aquarelles. It was a sea lion that just went up on Patreon, I think last week. Really fun. Love the medium, but yeah, getting your whites wide enough, like that white pencil wasn't super bright. And so either a white colored pencil. Now you wouldn't want to put white colored pencil and then the aquarelle pencils on top of it, because the water soluble is not going to stick to the wax and oil based colored pencil. So if you're going to use wax and oil based, use that at the very end of your project. Not while you still plan to mix with your watercolor pencils. But yeah, you absolutely could do that. You could use acrylic white if you needed to. The Inktense white would work fine. You definitely can mix those. And with the Inktense white, you could still go back over with your watercolor pencils just fine, because those are all water-based. So the Inktense is probably the better choice, but I need to do a project too, using the watercolor pencils as a base and then colored pencils on top of that. Great mixed media project. Yeah, and white charcoal would work too. But same thing, you wouldn't want to put your watercolor pencils back on the white charcoal. Once that gets wet, that's not gonna play well. It's gonna turn into a weird cloudy mess. Kirsty said, I'm all over Tim Schmeier already. Great advice for business and YouTubers. Yeah, he has the best advice. Like there are a lot of people who give YouTube advice, but he's always been my go-to. Like his stuff is accurate. It's current and relevant, where sometimes some of the advice I've seen from different marketers, they were giving you advice that actually is against like Facebook's terms of service or YouTube's terms of service. It was kind of like Tim Schmeier, you don't have that happen. I don't know if those people still make videos. It was a long time ago. So before anyone's like, oh, who's she talking about? I don't even know if they make content anymore. Octavia said, can you make a post on Patreon about when and where I can submit for our painting for critiques? Yes. And actually, when I do the critiques, I'm going to open that up first for patrons. I want to do a special Patreon one. I think just a separate Patreon one. I'll still air it publicly so everybody can watch and learn from it, but let patrons be the one to submit. So I'll probably, coming up here soon, do just a Patreon one and then another one for a MeWe that would be open for everybody. So yes, I absolutely will. Whoops, scrolled too far. Let's see. Yeah, Fan Rico had me cracking up. Oh my gosh, so much. Like, I've watched his videos. There was one of his videos. The rest of you are like, why are you rambling about this? This has nothing to do with that. I've watched his videos before, and he seems like, I don't know, more professional, maybe is a good word. And in person, he's more of a comedian. Like, that guy is funny. I wasn't expecting him to be that funny. That was really cool to meet him in person. Casey Wood said, have you considered doing a short video showing how you go about creating your schedule? Well, I kind of did. Sort of in the one. I talked about that in the video, the artists don't make these mistakes that I've been making. That one will help. But no, I think that's a good one. I think on one of the upcoming vlogs, I'll do that and show, like, break down how I went about doing it an easy way, because it was actually way easier than I thought it was going to be to put that together. So yeah, that's a good idea. Yes, I will do that. But if you want to watch something in the meantime, I do talk about it briefly in the other video. Pablo said, I was so happy to see in that video that you're on schedule. Have you gotten your hands on the new Derwent Light Fast colors? I have not. I need to contact them. I kind of hate to contact them yet because my schedule right now with the whole move and packing and all of that, I think I got bit by a mosquito. I don't want to be a jerk and be like, hey, send me these products that I won't actually get a chance to use for 2 months. So I haven't bugged them about it yet, but I'm sure that they will send. I just need to ask them. Yeah, I need to do that. I loved the 36 cents set was amazing, so absolutely need to do that soon. Christy said, and everybody else, Tim Schmeier regularly makes videos that are up-to-date, useful video creators as his channel. Just FYI if you are interested. Yes, Seriously, if you have a YouTube channel, you've got to watch his content. He has so much good advice, like so much, like it's amazing. And yes, up to date and current. Like anything changes in YouTube and he's one of the first making a video telling you about it, which is really cool. Carlene said, sorry, I was not able to catch the first few minutes. What are you supposed to do as your subject on this piece? This one's going to be another Aquashella theme. This is for my friend Sean. He doesn't know about it yet. He is one of the two people who put on Aquashella. He's here in Dallas. So I wanted to do something with, he likes snails are his thing. Like his username is Sean Snails. So it's going to have the logo. I will have river rocks and such here around the sand bed, some plants, which I need to start painting now. What is this? Is that a hair or... did I scratch the paint off? Some river rocks will be around here. And then the Aquashella logo is going to be like sideways and kind of just embedded like it fell into the water. And a snail is going to be crawling on it. And the center of the snail shell is going to be the Aquashella, the main center of the Aquashella logo. So that's the plan. I'm also going to want to play around with some glowy effects. So part of the logo is kind of glowing to give it some interest because it's a fairly basic painting. But yeah, I have this one. That is what this is going to be. Kirsty wants to schedule a video too. So yeah, I'll plan that. I will record that next Wednesday. So I'll edit it next Thursday. So yes, very soon. That will be my thing. Let's see. Kirsty said, Evie Knight, if you put you have to do the @Lachri fine art. If I'm not answering your question, if it doesn't highlight in orange, I just don't see it. It's not that I'm trying to ignore you, but I'm not likely going to see the question. So it has to highlight in orange. If you can't get it to work, I don't know how to make it work. So I understand. If you can't get it to work, ask somebody else to ask the question for you. One of the mods will be happy to do that, I'm sure. Zale says, are you going to do a Halloween themed piece this year? I did already. It went up, last week, the jack-o'-lantern. One of my favorite paintings. My husband claimed that like the night that I finished it. He's like, yeah, that's fine. I'm keeping that. I'm like, he doesn't do that often, so okay. Yes, I already have one. And then I also have just a fall themed colored pencil piece that will be coming out soon too. That's all. That one's on Patreon already. Who are my favorite artists to watch on YouTube? I don't actually watch a lot of artists on YouTube. Lena Dania and Jason Morgan, but they're my friends, so I'm biased, but they both have great content. Will Stoller, Unmasked Art's great. I'm going to forget a lot of, there are so many good, Kirsty Rebecca Fine Art, she's been making some videos, but I don't watch a whole lot of videos because I'm so busy making mine. But I know they have great content, and when I do watch them, those are some of the people that I like. And I'm probably forgetting. You've also got Joseph Vincent has videos. Nick Edgar is starting to make more. So they've got their channels are linked in the video description, our moderators, if you want to check out them. Okay. Does it matter if you use acrylic brushes for watercolor? Sort of. It depends on what effect you're going for. So like with watercolor pencils, I prefer acrylic brushes because they're a little bit more stiff and I don't want super soft brushes in that case. It really just depends on the effect that you're doing. But no, acrylic brushes, most like the acrylic brushes I would consider like Taklon bristle brushes. They generally will work very well for watercolor, but they may be too stiff depending on the effect that you're going for. So you can use them, but if you're not getting the results you want, you may want to try actual watercolor brushes that typically are going to be a bit softer. But some of those brushes are almost too soft and I hate them too. So you just have to play around with what works for you. Sarah said, there's one guy who insists everyone needs to upload a video that's at least 10 minutes long every day to be successful, no matter what kind of videos they're making. Don't agree with that at all. First, YouTube has this thing, don't you guys fight out there. I'll chase you away. The first thing is with a video, when you are making videos, the video needs to be however long the video needs to be. Don't make it 10 minutes so you can fit in extra ads. And a lot of people started doing that. What happens is if you make your video, if you're like, really, the video only needs to be 3 minutes to get my message across, but I make it 10 minutes so I can have extra ads, your viewer abandonment rate is going to be so high that YouTube's like, no one likes this video. We're not going to suggest it to anybody. That hurts you. Don't make a 10-minute video for the sake of making a 10-minute video. Make your video as long as it needs to be to get the message across that you want to tell, the story you want to tell. I never sit down and go, okay, I'm making a 30-minute video. Okay, I'm making a 10-minute video. I sit down and go, I'm making a video because I think this is going to be a good length for that content. And uploading every day, YouTube has this unsubscribe bug still, where the more you upload, the more subscribers you lose every day. YouTube's changed. They say that it's not happening. At this point, I would call it a feature because it's definitely a thing. So it can hurt you in that. You want the content to be things people are interested in. Don't make a video just because you're like, I have to make a video today. Make a video because there's a story you want to tell. There's something. Now, that said, at least once a week. If you're not making it once a week, you're really not going to grow well. I know. You can see what I was doing when I wasn't uploading regularly. But I don't think you need to do it every day. And I don't think that you need to do it. It has to be a minimum this much time. I think that that is not good advice for everybody. Because if your viewer abandonment rate is high, then YouTube's like, no one likes this, I'm not sharing it, which is the opposite of what you want to have happen. I should probably rinse these brushes before they get ruined. So yeah, I definitely do not agree with that advice. Now, if you could make a 10-minute video every single day where it's good content, people like it, your viewer abandonment, you're telling a good story that people want to keep up with, great, go for it. Yeah, you'll probably grow well. The more videos you're uploading, I think the better if people are watching it, that can definitely help you to grow faster. But it's not because it's 10 minutes. It's because you made a video the length that people, it was long enough to tell the story you wanted to tell. People liked it. Now, YouTube is getting to the point. People do tend to want longer content usually on YouTube. So the way that used to go, if you had a video that was more than like 3 to 5 minutes, even 5 minutes was super long, your viewer abandonment rate was high. People wanted quick, short cat videos. Now people are using YouTube to where it's more like a TV show. They want to sit down and watch something longer. So yeah, longer content is doing better, but it can't be long for the sake of being long. It needs to be long because that's how long it takes you to tell get your message across, to share your story, to paint whatever. You want it to be as long as it needs to be. I guess that's all I have on that. But making content for the sake of, I need to get this many videos out doesn't, once a week really is the minimum, I would say, for most people. But yeah. Let's see. Christy said, you watch Aaron Blaze as well, right? I do. I love Aaron Blaze. Thank you. See, I don't remember when people ask me, I never remember. I know I'm forgetting tons of people. Aaron Blaze is amazing. Brian said, thanks for sharing your talent. Much appreciated. Thanks for watching and hanging out with us. Evie said, what are the best brands for watercolor brushes? I don't know. I'm not a watercolor artist. I like my watercolor pencils, but it's a little bit different than your traditional watercolor, like the brushes that you would use. So I can't say. Lena Dania does work in watercolor, so you may want to ask her. She's got a channel here on YouTube. So she mostly does oils, but she does watercolor too. So okay, I think I'm caught up on questions. Let's get some painting going. So this stage, I wish you could see. I don't know why it looks as blotchy for you guys. It must be the way the light's hitting. This stage looks decent. It's kind of a pretty stage. It's going to get worse before it gets better. It's going to look very weird because what I have to do is get those plants in the background and then the stones will go in front of it. So these plants are going to look like they're floating in the middle of nowhere. It's just what has to happen. Oh, I should also clean my brushes again. So for acrylic brushes, for me, I like the one that I've got in my hand right now. This one is a Royal Soft Grip where it's got the grip there. These guys are nice. They're fairly inexpensive, and I typically, for acrylics, I'm going to go with Taklon bristled. Royal Soft Grip is good. Simply Simmons, I like a lot of theirs. And one of my favorites, or favorite brands, is Hobby Lobby's generic, believe it or not. It may be the only generic supply that I really, really like, because normally I avoid generic art supplies, but with paintbrushes, you can get away with that because it's not affecting the archival quality of your work. But yeah, the Hobby Lobby, their Masters Touch brushes, I cannot talk. Those are really nice. Okay, so what brush do I want to use for this? Probably go with a little bit smaller. Let's see. I just put a bunch of my brushes away last night, and now I can't find what I want. This one should work. So to do this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the same paint that I had out, but I'm not going to have as much water. We'll go ahead and let it be a little bit more opaque. but there is water. Okay, a little bit more water. Oh, too much water. Just going to mix that in here. And I want to start getting this hint of, okay, I need a little bit more water. That is too translucent. I mean, too opaque. There we go. I had a photo over here somewhere that had grass for me to look at. Do I not have it up anymore? I might not. Yeah, just some grass in there. Now, when this dries, it's not going to look as bold as what it does now. It looks a little bit more bold just because there's water on it, but I want this to look like it's in the distance. No, that's a bit too much water. But notice how often I'm like, oh, that's wrong. Nope, too much water, not enough water. Don't stress yourself out. If you do something and it's not quite right, paint over it. There's nothing, like, you didn't ruin anything. You weren't finished yet. So it doesn't matter if something doesn't come out quite how you wanted it to. You just kind of want that to fade into the background. Remember, if you do not highlight your question with the Lachri fine art, if it doesn't highlight in orange, I'm probably not going to see it. I'm not trying to ignore you. I just won't see the question. But I did see that one. Do I have color mixing tips if you only have primary colors? Yeah, get started. Mix, play with them. Red and yellow make orange. Yellow and blue make green. I mean, you just play. Just start painting. You can do most of what you need with those primaries. But just play with it. You don't need that many colors to get started with your painting. Those primaries are really going to give you what you need. Most of what you need. I mean, there's certain colors you're going to have a hard time mixing depending on, when you say primary, depending on, like, the red. Is it a cool red or a warm red? If it's too warm, you're really not going to be able to mix good purple with that. So, you'll have some challenges there, but just play with it. That is how you're going to learn. There's not like some great advice that you need to hear that's going to be like, oh, okay, now I can get started. No, get started now. You don't spend too much time looking for all the advice in the world. Start painting. Nick said, you seriously need to merge with the slogan, lights light enough, darks dark enough. I know, I definitely need to do that. I think it was my friend Stacy was giving me a hard time about that I don't have that yet. I need to redo the merch because I actually don't like what I have now. I want something new, and I just haven't gotten to that stage yet. Sarah said, I don't agree with that advice either. I also struggle to keep people talking about how often you need to make videos and how long. I struggle to keep people on my videos, so I don't think trying to make extra long ones is wise for me. No, definitely not. If you're having a high viewer abandonment rate, you do not need longer is not the answer. Christy said, what should I have for lunch? I could make a healthy salad, or I could be lazy and have toast because it's quicker. Well, considering how lazy I am, I'd go with the toast. If I'm back on I can't do the carbs thing again. I vote toast. Let me live vicariously through you and your toast. And if you have avocado and garlic salt and butter, do that. Oh, thanks, Uncle 60. Cup of tea. Oh, you brought me that's a nice cup of tea, too. Thank you. Kirsty said, I recently saw the merch with Hold My Coffee, and I really want that now. I have a coffee cup. I actually was drinking out of it earlier. That one I want to keep. Let's see. But yeah, I actually really liked how they printed too. I had some printed to see how that came from the merch company that works with YouTube. It's like linked to that below. The quality was really good. I need to pull off any t-shirts with dark colored stuff from Fine Art America. One of my friends, I saw it at Aquashella. She was wearing it, and she had a clownfish printed on a dark black sweatshirt or a dark blue. The colors were horrible because it was too dark for the base. So I need to go through. I would have returned it if I was her. I'm not sure why she didn't. Oh, because she wanted to wear it that weekend. But it really it did not print well. So I want to, the ones that came from this print store, like the prints, like posters and stuff are fine with Fine Art America, but that print on the dark like that, it just, the colors weren't good. And I don't know if it was a screw up just that time or if that's the norm for them on trying to get prints on dark sweatshirts. So I need to go through and change that. But the ones that I printed here for just merch stuff, I really liked. When I paint anything anymore, I hear Lisa's or Lachri saying, "Lights light enough and dark is dark enough." And Aaron Blaze, there we go. Chrissy said, "Do I have all those things? Toast it is." I'm so jealous right now. Avocado toast with garlic stuff. I've been eating that since I was a kid. We used to do that all the time. Yeah, so good. So see, I'm just kind of building, kind of getting a little bit darker, and this just fades off into the background where I've used more and more water back here. This is going to push it back even further when I come through an airbrush. And when I airbrush, I will put a few rays of light coming down through this. And when I do the rays of light on this one, I'm not going to do the normal fan out. I'm probably going to do rays of light just coming in at an angle, like just a few strands going at one area. So because of the way that I'm going to do the logo on this. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting in the hint of rocks. This brush is too big for that. Let's go ahead and rinse that and get a smaller one out. Now, I will end up putting some little blades of grass up closer that are going to be more bright green. Like it'll really stand out, but that's going to be the stuff that's really close to the viewer. This stuff is just like long and, far in the distance. So I don't want high contrast there. I just want the hint. So, and now you can see what I mean, how it looks like they're just floating because I haven't gone through and put all the, it looks terrible, all the little river rocks in yet. Melody said, "I also have running through my head when I work on a project, lights light enough, dark's dark enough." Well, I'm good that I infected you guys with that concept because it's a big deal. Like it really will make such a difference in your art. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of give you the hint of rocks in here. Start getting that texture. And as I move my way forward, the rocks are going to get larger and they're going to also shift to where they're more grays and golden colors and stuff that's like really clear. I also had an idea on this, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do it, but to make it a little bit more surreal, because the Aquashella logo and anything with Aquashella, it's both fresh and saltwater. And since I'm doing this one being mostly under freshwater, I thought it might be kind of cute to have a random like globe or something in here with a clownfish inside of it, like he's on his own little world inside the freshwater thing. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. We'll see what I'll end up doing to decide if I think I like that idea. Once I get the majority of the logo and the background done, I'll end up playing around in Photoshop to see if that's a look that was cute or if it's just a terrible idea, because sometimes you get these ideas and they look adorable in your head or you really like them, and then you see them in person, you're like, wow, I wish I had tested that out somewhere first before I put that on my painting. The logo will cover all of this, so I don't need to spend a lot of time in this area. Have you ever ordered from Fine Art America? I tried a pillow, but the picture was a night scene. Cards do print a little darker. If you get a box, you order if you order the 10-pack. The prints look okay. I mean, they're not giclées, they're posters. They still look good for the prints, but it was definitely not super accurate. I did notice that on the things I've seen print from Fine Art America, like the actual prints. But the pillows and stuff, like people have posted where they got prints, and those looked really good, like pretty close. So nothing I wasn't unhappy with any of those. The only thing I've seen from Fine Art America now that I didn't like was that sweatshirt, that printing, because it was printed these bright oranges and reds, and they printed it on top of a navy blue sweatshirt. And so maybe if it was printed on white, it would have been fine. But those colors were too translucent to go onto the navy blue. So I think that's what I need to change there. And I probably need to order one myself to find out if it looks okay or if it's an item I should just remove from that store, that shop. But the prints that I've seen looked good. I mean, obviously they must look good enough that I kept them on, you know, still use that service. So I was happy with that. There's little hairs in there. It was just that sweatshirt was the first thing I saw that it was like, yeah, that should have been returned. That was not impressive. One of what my favorites right now is, and I'm going to make this option available for buyers on the Giclées. They can drop ship. The one I'm using Giclée today, which really the prices are good, and you can order one at a time and have them drop ship. So if a customer does order it, you can do that. And the ones that I've printed from them, they were a little darker, but I think it may have been a difference in my monitor because that tends to be a thing with my computer. But they look good. Like I thought it looked better than the painting. Very happy with all of the prints I've done with Giclée today. Like really, really happy. So that I think I may change on my website and make that an option for people to buy. They cost a little bit more because it's Giclée, but they are nice. Kirsty said, I can't help myself from saying lights, lighting up in some of my videos, but it's automatic because that's what I'm thinking when I draw. It's your fault. That's funny. Joseph said, one of my friends bought one of my prints on Fine Art America on Talent, said it was paper thin. I may pull some of the March down off that and just leave. I did like the pillows that I've seen. I thought that looked really neat. But I may go ahead and hearing that with that one, I may pull, because I think there's like blankets and shower curtains and stuff. And since I don't know what that quality is, I may go ahead and remove that from the merch store, especially in that case. If any of you watching have ordered anything, not just from me, just anything from Fine Art America merch-wise, I know the prints are fine, but if you've ordered, let's say, a coffee mug and the print peeled off right away, or if their towels are super thin or something like that, please let me know so I can pull them off my site and just stick with prints themselves. So what I'm doing is just kind of building that texture back in here. I don't need anything to be like perfectly defined or anything like that. I want these to overlap and just give that hint of stones. When I move up front, then I'm going to start getting way more detailed. And it doesn't matter, like some of this, I don't know if you can see on the video, but you can see in person some of the blades of grass in here, or the plants showing through some of the stones I painted. Honestly, that doesn't matter. That's not going to affect the end result. Like I used to spend so much time being so neurotic about every little thing, and some things super matter. That is not one of them. Joseph said, he said the art was great, talking about the print on the towel, but not a very good towel. Huh. Yeah, I probably will pull that off. I'm thinking the blankets too. That does make me wonder. And after seeing the sweatshirt, it was like, the sweatshirt itself seemed like it felt nice. It was just the print looked like it'd been washed 800 times. Like the print was faded and old, like it was supposed to be this retro looking thing, not something that was brand new. And the print, the one, now I do have, let me see. Actually, I'll show you the post if you want to see. These are the ones from the print thing that is done through YouTube, or YouTube. And I forget, crap, what is the name of that print company? But hold on, let me show you the sweatshirt. The good one, if I can find it. So this is the one that is advertised on YouTube. I was really happy with the way that this came out. It's a nice sweatshirt. I don't want to get paint on it, so I don't want to pull it too far. Let's see if you can even see without me touching it to the paint. Well, I really don't want to get paint on that. I really like this sweatshirt, so I don't want to ruin it. Let's see if you guys can see this. I don't have any paint on my hands. So here's the back of it. But it printed really clear. So this one is the one that a mistake doesn't mean you've ruined anything. It just means you're not finished yet. And then it's got the goldfish. And then the front has my gold. I'm not getting paint on you, am I? It has the goldfish on it. But it printed really clear. Now it's just the black and white. Like it's not a full scene like the one my friend had got, where she was, it was like an actual painting on the sweatshirt. But the quality of that, I really, really like that sweatshirt. As you can tell, I don't want to get paint on it. I mean, I can get the paint back off if it happens, but I'd rather not. It's a really pretty color, too, of blue. Let's see. Joseph said, I go to his house once a month and I've never seen it. Next game night, I will demand to actually see it. Yeah, let me know what you think of it. Kirsty said, good conversation about Fine Art America because my art is on there too. I've only bought a pillow and coffee mug and they were all right, but I haven't bought any other merch. Yeah, I mean, if the other merch, if like the towel, if that comes out bad, with seeing what that sweatshirt looked like, I think I may pull those off as being options on mine, and just stick to prints for that. And then merch, besides pillows, I actually do. The pillows I know look fine. They're okay. Then the other merch, like sweatshirts and stuff, I think I'll keep the simple ones here with the YouTube, whatever. Well, I can't remember what the name of that company is that I'm using for that, but I need to add some new ones to the merch here on YouTube for sure. And if you ever ordered something from me, from Fine Art America, and you're like, wow, I am not happy with this quality, return it. Just send it back to them. Like Fine Art America guarantees that. Do not feel obligated to keep it if it's not the quality that you're expecting. So let's see. Gail said, my daughter had an art teacher that always said, darken your darks darker. Yep. That works too. Said I wasn't too excited about the cards fold. The ones I make myself have the scoring inside the fold and UV coating outside. Theirs is outside through UV coating. Huh. Interesting. I'm curious. I actually want to order two. One of the things that I want to start doing for Patreon is the postcards. I mean, postcards get damaged. It's a postcard. It's going through the mail. It gets damaged. But some people like to keep them like they're a print, which isn't really, you're not going to get good quality. I mean, the postcards look great new, but when I send them, they get damaged in the mail. So, and obviously if something's super damaged, I'm going to replace it for you. But, just normal damage and wear and tear on a postcard. One of the things I want to do is on Fine Art America, and I need to figure out how to do this, but I want to make it so that patrons who get postcards can get at my cost, like an actual little card print, if they wanted something better quality. So that would be, and I don't think it's terribly expensive at my cost, like a couple dollars each. So people would have that, but I need to go on to Fine Art America and try that out. I need to send one to myself to see what that quality would be for the cards then. Now, Casey Wood said, how do you get acrylic paint out of clothes you accidentally get on it? Vodka. You put a little bit of vodka on the clothes where the stain is, and I will take like a toothbrush or something like that, like a clean toothbrush, not one with toothpaste, because if you use normal toothpaste, can bleach out your clothes because they put whitening stuff in it. So make sure it's a clean toothbrush that's not been used with toothpaste. But scrub that into the clothing. I also will take my brush cleaner. I use the Master's brush cleaner and rub that into it, or like pink soap can work. But rub that into it. The vodka is the main thing that's going to break up that paint though, and then throw it in the washer. But vodka is the best. I've also used tequila because I didn't used to ever have alcohol at home, and my friend had left tequila one night. We'd made margaritas like years ago. I had that tequila on my fridge for so long. But I tried tequila once because I didn't have vodka at home, and yeah, that worked too. Now I have like a gallon of vodka in my fridge, so I'm all set for paint stains. Let's see. Carlene said, Halloween is getting close. I can't wait for you to create a piece with that theme. I already did. Do you have a subject planned in mind? Probably an aqua shellfish or a pumpkin with holes. That might be kind of a cool thing to do, a Halloween thing with fish. I didn't consider that. But the jack-o'-lantern painting, YouTube doesn't let people know that new videos went up, but there is a new one. It was one of my last ones that went up, and yes, I have already done that. And I'm really happy with how that painting came out. Super, super excited about that. Kind of glad my husband claimed it because now I don't have to sell it because I kind of wanted to keep it. Ben said, I think Teesprings. Yes, Teespring. Thank you for YouTube's t-shirt. Yeah, and thank you. Teesprings is who that sweatshirt that I really liked came from. Now, to be fair, that's black print on a light colored sweatshirt. So of course it's going to show up well versus a light colored print on top of dark, which did not work well for Fine Art America. Heather said, I would love to be able to get a print of yours from Fine Art America. Yeah, they're on there. They're there now. If you just go to my website, they're all there. Nick says, unless you brush your teeth with vodkas. Let's see. Okay, I think we're caught up. I can start putting in some of these bigger stones. I'm going to switch brushes. And here, I'm going to go ahead and start mixing this lighter, kind of a grayish tone for these. I don't care if it's any perfect color, because like always, color's not a big deal. I'm going to muddy that up a bit though, kind of a brownish, grayish tone. And if this color ends up being like, wow, that does not work, which it won't at all, I'm just going to glaze on top of this. The color that I'm doing right now does not matter for these stones. but they're going to start getting bigger. And what I'm going to do is I layer these in here. They're going to start, actually, I need a smaller brush for this. They're going to start smaller. I need to start in the back and work my way forward so that they look like they're overlapping properly. I want to show you what not to do when painting stones, like where you want it to look like there's a pebbled floor. This is not how you make pebbles, where they're all apart from each other. This looks like you've got floating spots. You want to start back here, and I'm going to overlap. Now, of course, I'm going to go through and shade all of these. I'm just getting my base blocked in, so you'll kind of start losing your shape a bit. But they need to overlap some, and I'm going to start in the back. And that way I can overlap as I move forward and get larger. And you want them to be longer this way. Don't make circles or oblong things sticking up this way. You screw up your perspective. I want this to look like it's fading off into the distance. And some of these I'm going to have to go back over with the blues as it does fade off. But start kind of more in the back and work your way forward. And these gray ones, like I said, I am going to glaze over them to push them back so it fades more naturally. But you want to get that variation in there. We're going to start there and see how I'm going more along, like horizontal with these pebbles. And don't make them all exactly the same. Some can overlap in a weird, come at a slight angle. You just don't want a bunch of vertical ones or just complete circles. Let's see. Zale said, do I ever use the vodka or tequila for drinking? I don't occasionally have margaritas. I'm not a huge tequila fan. I like them in margaritas because I like salt a lot. I'm kind of like a cow with a cowlick. Anything salty I love. So I like margaritas for that when it has the salt in the rim. But vodka I like, but I don't drink a lot of juice. So I drink wine more than anything if I do have alcohol now. Christy said, I posted a picture of my lunch and tagged you in the MeWe group so you can live vicariously through me and my avocado toast. Thank you. I have a sweet potato waiting for me after this. Mine is not as exciting as yours. Senia said, I wanted to know your opinion. Which is better, blending polychromos with baby oil or odorless mineral spirits? This is easy. Do not use baby oil on your polychromos unless you're just a craft. I don't want to say just a crafter, like crafters aren't awesome. But you don't need to worry about archival things in crafting. Baby oil, not archival. And it never really dries all the way. So it kind of messes up your paper. You can't just layer the same as you can. No, I do not recommend baby oil. Does it blend? Yes. Should you use it? I wouldn't. I mean, it's kind of, yeah, definitely not something I recommend ever using with your colored pencil. If you're trying to make archival work, baby oil's not the way to go. You can make it look neat, but it's not archival. So definitely no on the baby oil. And I know somebody's going to come in and, I use it all the time. Great. Your work's not super archival. Good job there. I get weird comments on the live streams after they're over. That's when I get the most complaints, which is weird about things. But no, I see people do it for card making and such. And I mean, that's fine. It doesn't matter if your work is archival, if you're making cards and crafts. But when you're trying to do something that's going to last for a very long time, you don't want to use home supplies. Use things that are intended for your art. You're going to get better results and they're going to be more archival. They're going to last longer. Yeah, that is my recommendation. Definitely odorless mineral spirits. Oops. Good. I'm not the only one who's like a cow with a salt lick, apparently. Now, as I do these stones, I'm okay with a little bit of that sand kind of showing through. I will add a lot of shadows, so you won't see a ton of them, but I won't get to... You guys better not fight out there. I hear you. We'll chase your butt away. Except for the one that I like that's friendly and been here forever. It's his house. Someone's watching this right now who did not see that part of the video. I was like, what the hell is wrong with her? I have 2 Eastern Phoebes right now that decided they're going to live. I've had one Eastern Phoebe living on a little bird, like a wild bird, living out on my balcony for like a year. He goes, I don't know where he goes during the day, but he sleeps on my balcony every single night and I've always got lights on. So, and he likes me. He's not, I don't know if he likes me, but he's not afraid of me. I can go out there, water my plants. He just watches me. I talk to him and he just like cocks his head. Like he's super cool. just this last week or the last few days, I've had a second one out there and they keep fighting. And so the second one's afraid of me. That one is not, you can tell which one is which by the one that flies away when I go out there. But I keep, yes, I'm threatening wild birds not to fight on my balcony. No one said I was wrapped real tight. And no, I have not had wine. It sounds like it. You'd think I was with this conversation. Courtney says, random, but this is surprisingly relaxing to listen to while I do chemistry homework. Looking great so far. Thank you. Chemistry. I did not do well with that in high school. I had to drop that class. There was math involved, and when there is math involved, things don't end well for me. I want to get some random shapes in here so if they're not too much the same. Actually, I want to make some of these a lot bigger, so let's just go over some of those. I don't think they're being dirty birds, Nick. I think that they're arguing over who gets to live on the balcony. Because I wondered that at first. I'm like, oh, how cute. He got a girlfriend or she got a boyfriend or whatever. I don't know. I'm not judging. But yeah, they are starting to fight now more and more. And this has been like the little safe spot for the one that's been there all year. So I don't want him being picked on out there. That's his house. And it could be a mating thing. I mean, it very well could be. Birds, when they mate, usually the female is not real thrilled about the whole process. And I am thinking that the one that's been out there all this time probably is a female, because when you compare the color, usually with birds, the brighter color, usually, not always, are a bit brighter, more bold in the coloring. And so he may just be harassing her, wanting to make babies. I don't know if this is baby making time of year. I think it would be the opposite, but I don't know for that type of bird. She's not having it right now. She said she has a headache. So it is possible that's what's going on, but I don't want her picked on. Down on the farm studio. Now, I talk to wildlife all the time. Of course, I don't know that reassures you or not. Yeah, I'm not sure if it does. Throw a few pebbles on this side as well. The thing that really, with this, and you'll see this on the final video, I won't get to that point tonight, but the shading of these pebbles, as basic as they look, you won't believe when you see the final video how easy it is to get full detail for pebbles like this. Like, really easy. It goes super fast. So I can't wait to show that to you guys. But again, that won't be tonight. Neva said, I just joined right as you started yelling and mild confusion. Well, that makes it more interesting. Crazy lady with a paintbrush yelling at birds outside. Wonder what my neighbors must think. They probably see me poking my head out because from where, if someone was downstairs or on their balcony, they wouldn't be able to see these birds. They'd have no idea I was like randomly yelling on my balcony. Although I doubt any of them think I'm wrapped real tight as it is, so they're at it again. Let's see. My son came into the room right when you were talking to the birds and he thought you were talking to kids. They're not even my birds. That's the funny part. I mean, I call the one my patio chicken, but it's not, it's a wild bird. I wish that bird could come with me to the new house. He's really cute. Although I won't miss the amount of bird crap on my patio. So I guess it's not all bad that I'll be losing patio chicken when I move. Now, one of the tips I can give you too, and I know Nick is going to be one of our mods tonight, well, every night. He is starting acrylic. So here, I keep thinking of like, what advice can I give to Nick? Big advice for acrylic paints. One of the biggest mistakes that I see people make when they first start with paint, they don't load enough paint or water on the brush. They work with a very dry brush for everything. Get that paint on there. Don't be afraid. I see more often where people don't use enough paint than people who use too much paint. So, you know, keep that in mind as you're painting. Get some paint on there. If you're making a brush stroke and it's coming out like bumpy, like dry around the edges, that right there lets you know you need more paint and more water on the brush, paint and or water. But the brush is too dry if that happens. I think, is it today, Nick, that your new acrylic painting supplies came? Nick normally works in colored pencils, so he's going to be trying, and he does Inktense and a lot of pencil type work, so he'll be trying acrylics soon. Do I ever paint on square-shaped canvases? I do. I have some here somewhere. It really just depends on what the subject is that I'm painting. In this case, I have kind of a longer oval shape. So that's why I was going to do this. And it's funny, I was actually considering doing something more square shaped because it was supposed to be focused around a snail. But when I decided to include the Aquashola logo, I needed something that was more, a bit longer. One of the things that I don't like as much with square style paintings, I'd prefer to work on a canvas brain shutdown, gallery wrapped, like, what are they, inch and a half inch, 1.5 inch, I'm tired, canvas, box canvas, that's the word I'm looking for. Whoever was just screaming at the canvas or the monitor to remind me of words, you helped right now. But the box canvases, I like those better because you don't frame those. You don't get a lot of standard square canvases. Or frames, you would have to have something custom made, which I'm cheap, don't want to do that. So I go with, if I have, do I have any back there? Typically, I'm going to go with something that is a box canvas, and I can show you what I mean. Actually, we're about done anyway, so let's turn that off. This should be finished soon, and when I do finish it, it'll probably be this weekend or next week. I'll post it on Instagram and MeWe for sure, so you'll be able to see that before it goes live. Patrons, you this week I think are getting a burning colored pencil. Unless I have this done, I could push this forward. I'm not sure which one's coming next for you, but with Patreon, you'll either have this one this week or next week. YouTube, it'll be a few weeks before it goes up for you, but you will be able to see the finished painting once that's done over on MeWe and Instagram. Let me find the box canvas. So this one is a 16 by 20 inch box canvas, and you can see, let me see, which is easier to show you. I hear birds fighting again. You leave her alone. She has a headache. Look at how thick this canvas is versus your normal canvases are going to be a lot thinner. And so you'll paint the edge of that canvas and you don't frame these. There's no need to put this in a frame, which is really, really nice. Saves you a lot of money. The canvas itself costs a bit more. This one is the Frederick's Pro Series Oil Primed Linen, but you can get box canvases in most types. And you just paint your edges, you hang it as is. Like I said, the canvas costs a bit more initially, but you save so much on buying a frame if you needed a frame. So those are really nice. And if I'm going to work with a square, I'm going to go with one of those because I don't want to, it would be really expensive to frame a thinner. Usually the thinner canvases like these, you can see how thin that one is. That typically I'm going to put in a frame. Yes, it could be hung without a frame, but I don't like the look as much personally on the thinner canvases. So yeah, box canvases are wonderful if you're going to do a square, just for that reason. And the other thing with the square, when you make prints, a square print is a little bit weird. You run into the same person. The buyer has to have it matted in a special, like it has to be a custom job. So I don't like square as much for that reason, just for making it easier to get things framed and matted. And I know that shouldn't be the reason you choose a size. You should choose the size that is right for the project you're working on. But they are things you want to consider. I mean, as artists, we have to, if we're putting it in a gallery, they're going to want it framed or box canvas that the edges are painted. So you have to consider all of these cost factors, I think, too, when you're deciding what size and what shape of canvas, what type of canvas to use. Let's see. Nick gets his paints tomorrow. You're going to have fun and make it. See, buy vodka so you can get paint out of your clothes. And if you're really frustrated with the painting, the vodka may help with that factor. Brenda said, I just started getting into oil and acrylic painting and it is now my favorite medium. Before I just used charcoal because paint scared me, but it's super fun and beautiful. That's awesome. Yeah, it's not as scary as it seems. Like if you can get into, when you're working with anything that's new, it seems so scary, but if you just jump in and have fun with it, you'll learn pretty quickly. Let's see. Lisa, thank you for your time recording and editing your videos. I started painting 5 months ago, and by following your videos, 2 ocean acrylics and 1 Inktense, I'm learning so much. That is so awesome to hear. I love teaching. I love hearing stuff like that, like being able to help another artist to help. Painting's fun. I like to be able to spread that. So that's cool to hear. Kirsty said, and Lisa and friends, this was super fun. Lunch was delightful. I'm so jealous. Toast right now. Thanks for the help with my decision making. I'm off to an appointment now. Hopefully I can catch everyone next week. Well, have a good day, Kirsty. Rhonda said, do you paint around the sides of a wrapped canvas? Yes. So this one, I'm not going to frame it for him. He can frame it, the person this is for, he can frame it himself. I don't know what's going to work in his house or what room he decides to use this in, but I will paint the edges on this one black, just to keep it simple. If it were a lighter colored painting, I might paint it gray or something that was not as harsh as black on the edge. But for this one, it's fairly dark, so the black will work just fine. If it were a painting like this, the gallery wrapped, I do one of two things. Either I'll do the edges. Some paintings, it looks nice if it's just straight black, but sometimes it looks better if you continue the front of the painting around the edge. So I would say I do that more often than painting it black on a gallery wrap. I'm looking around. Do you have any in here? No, these are all normal 3/4 inch or 1/2 inch. I don't know, some dimension. Like I said, math and numbers. I'm bad at it and I don't remember things. But yeah, with that, I would typically continue the painting around the edge. I don't bother with that on the thinner ones. The thinner ones, I just paint a solid color. And sometimes that solid color may be like the main green here. Just continue that around the edge. That works too. Good night, Ursies. Okay, we are at 9:59. We'll see if there are, 10 o'clock. I can go feed fish. Aw, 2 thumbs down. Sorry for irritating the people who thumbs down. Was it the ones, what was it I said earlier someone who was going to get mad at me for? It was someone who thinks you can't mix water with your paint, isn't it? Thank you guys so much for joining. Check out our moderators, channels in the video description. And also, I don't know what we're working on next week. We will have some critiques coming up soon. I will announce in our art group over on MeWe and on Patreon when I open those up, because I'm going to use both of those. And, oh, look, I put too much water. It's starting to run. See, Nick, sometimes you can put too much water too. Yep, we are good. And that's it. Okay, I'll see you guys next week.